don't mind tonight. Play per Evo.
Depends. Will your friend, the footballer, be there?
Oh, friend, football friend!
Oh, what a superb goal! Stefan Moore, that is extraordinary from Ben Garuccio.
You're listening to Football Friends with Ben Garuccio and Stefan Mork. Coming up for our 1000th episode, it's time to get ready for the first ever Unite round. Hear the boys preview the big weekend in Sydney up ahead and the Asian Cup. Who should we be keeping an eye on from across the continent, and what would constitute a successful tournament for Arnie and the Roos? And there's plenty of stories to be told. The boys reflect on injury battles, mid-season transfers and much more. So sit back, relax and enjoy episode 12 of Football Friends.
Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Football Friends with Ben and Stef. Welcome back, Steph, for another week. It's been a good week of A-League action. You got down to a few games at Cooper's.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I actually not sure why they had it, but the Thursday night at Cooper's 2-2 Wellington was unbelievable. And then there was the Monday game. I'm not sure if it's because of the AFC Cup with MacArthur or not, but to be honest, it was great for me. Four days apart, the game, so 5-minute drive from Carla's parents' house. No better stadium to watch football. Just not the best results for Adelaide United, but it was good games, good atmosphere, and like you said, it was a great round. Some good games, some great goals in the Melbourne City Western United game, and you guys obviously just can't catch a break right now when things are going against you. You started so well, top goal. Obviously Roos just got the start. He's banged it in, and you guys were all over him in the first half, and then I don't really know, what you can do when you concede two goals like that. 9 times out of 10, they're not scoring those, are they?
Nah, it's just honestly been the story of the season. It just seems that, I don't know, in the games that we play well, things like that seem to keep happening to us, and then the games that we don't play well obviously just get punished. And that's just the annoying thing. The games that we have played well, we just can't seem to get those wins that we probably deserve. But look, it's just, football is just one of those things. Like, you just, honestly, the way this season's gone so far, nothing can really surprise me at the moment. Like, to cop those 2 goals, there was nothing that really we could have done too differently. I think in the game we were quite good. Probably in the second half, we, as a back four, probably were sitting a little bit deeper. We probably should have kept our lines a little bit closer and just minimised the space for the players like, your Natel, Arslan to get it, because that's where they want to get the ball. They want to get it in between the lines, face forward, and start to be able to pick those passes out and sort of drive at the back four. So we probably gave them a little bit more space in the second half. I don't think it was anything major, but at the end of the day, we're getting punished for little things at the moment. And the set pieces have sort of been something that we've struggled with. But I think we actually defended them quite well, and then you just clear the set piece and then it gets banged in from 25 yards out, top corner. So it was disappointing. But I think you take the positives out of it. Got Unite round this weekend. It should be a good weekend of football. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing, I guess, maybe away from home as well. Get away, all the teams are there. There'll be a bit of a buzz hopefully about Sydney, and you guys can go there and refresh. Hopefully, who do you play? Is it MacArthur?
MacArthur, yeah.
Yeah, MacArthur.
Yeah, so I was watching the game last night as well, the Adelaide game. So it was actually a really top game, to be honest, an entertaining game. The Adelaide home games, both of them were very entertaining, and they got 2 good crowds as well, to be honest. I think they got like 11,000 on the Thursday and just under 10K last night. So Adelaide's, they always pull in a good crowd and entertaining football.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good game for you to bounce back. I think the Bulls are pretty solid. They've got some good players, but it's a good game to come up against them, I think. Hopefully you can turn it around, because we need Ben to be smiling on the podcast. Otherwise, it might turn into just the Stef and Friends podcast if this keeps going this way, because you just won't answer my calls. You won't know what time we're doing the podcast, and then nobody's happy.
No. It's not easy, to be honest, to come on here after losing, after the way that we have started the season. Like, I'll be honest, it's not easy. It's not great to, you're talking about football on this podcast every week, and I love doing it. But, you know, speaking about especially my own games, it's hard to, I suppose, speak really open and honestly. I don't want to be too biased as well. At the end of the day, you got to call a spade a spade. And, you know, at the end of the day, we sit bottom at the moment after the season started. So, yeah, it is. It's difficult, but look, we've still got games. We've got to keep going. Just try and turn things around. Then, yeah, I won't leave yet. Don't worry.
Good to hear. Well, we'll go on to that next game. Before MacArthur played the one against Adelaide, I guess they played the Jets. The Jets probably feel like they're harshly done by there with the penalty in the last minute. But for me, you know, just before that was the appeal for the handball on Kankar. And then straight away after that, it's a clear cut penalty. The handball, I think, was the right call. wasn't intentional, but you're through on goals. I think, you know, he's taken him down, and Jermaine's had the nerve to just go straight down the middle. 1-1 draw in that game, which is, again, a relatively entertaining game. The ball's one thing, and I know we don't want to just talk about the crowds, but for me, it's exciting, and it's good to see that, you know, there's been consecutive weeks, I think, of, you know, 3 games have had over 10K in MacArthur. They're actually growing in their crowds. I think it was another 4,000, 4,500 at the game. So, you know, we're going back from, you know, 2,000 people, you know, at the start of the season. So they've doubled their crowds. So it's not bad if it's trajectorying in that kind of that way. But, you know, we'll see how many fans can come out for this Unite round in Sydney. Hopefully there is a lot of fans, a lot of neutral fans, and they can actually jump on one of the teams, because it should be a good week. And then the next game, which was another Sydney game, Western Sydney against Central Coast. A great way for Tulio to kind of sign off as being a Mariners player, wasn't it?
Yeah, top goal. But Central Coast are just, like, they're impressing me a lot at the moment, to be honest. Like, we've said it a few times now, like, at the start of the season, I was honestly watching them, and I was a little bit, not worried, but I was thinking, how are they going to sort of get out of this? They've lost so many players, they've lost their coach, and yeah, it's crazy, like this corner that they've turned. And that's, you know, the way the A-League can be. When you win a few games in a row, you just jump up the table, and they have. And now, to be honest, like, you're looking at them as probably one of the strongest teams in the league. You know, on early season form, you probably would have said, you know, you got the Phoenix, you know, MacArthur were right up there. You had Victory up there, you had Western Sydney, and now all of a sudden Central Coast are jumping a couple of those teams. So yeah, they're playing really, really well. They just look like a well-oiled unit at the moment, and yeah, I'm enjoying watching them, to be honest.
Yeah, I think for me, the one, probably them and Central Coast, along with Victory, I would say. Western Sydney, you can put those two up there, but they've got the money, and they've actually got, like, a lot of, you know, big players as well. But Wellington, Central Coast, they don't have the biggest budgets, and they're actually, like, when you see them play, they all fight for each other. And I think, like, you know, for me as a player, that's something that I actually really enjoy watching, when you see a team go out there and they're just like, they enjoy the little wins. Like, they're scrapping for the ball, they win it back. Obviously, they score an unbelievable goal like that. And if they can, you know, keep going in the same, you know, way without Tulio, then it's even more impressive, because he's going to be a hard person to replace. But you just see them get around each other, and they're fighting for everything. Even watching Wellington live, like, you could see their backline was getting up so quickly. Like, there was 4 or 5 Adelaide United players offside sometimes. So, you know, small things like that, like, that's the stuff that, you know, over the course of a season wins you a lot of games. And especially the tight games kind of gets you over the line sometimes. And you want to play for each other. You want to fight for each other. That's sometimes in football, like, tactics are great, and, you know, having good personnel and, you know, whatever else it is, like, is important. But sometimes just those small basic things of literally just fighting for each other. And it's not easy to get every single player to do it, to be doing the right things, the team things. But both of those teams, I reckon they're, you know, I don't know why. Maybe it's the younger group. Maybe it's because they're the underdogs. That could be the reasons why. But, you know, if they both keep going in this way, I think they'll both be pushing, as they are, for top 2, top 4 even come season's end. And who would have thought that Central Coast, after losing that many players, like you said, would be fighting again for a top 4, top 2 spot. So fair play with their recruitment. They got the coach right. Obviously, a lot of people were questioning him early on, but I think they've got him right. So yeah, very, very interesting to see, I guess, how they keep going now that Tulio's left, and good luck to him over in Japan and Kyoto. I think he'll do really well there. I guess, if he doesn't do well though, where he's coming. He's probably coming straight back to Australia and getting 3 or 4 times his pay packet that he had at Central Coast, because everyone will be after him. So let's see what happens. But onto the Brisbane-Sydney game. Did you see much of that one?
Yeah, I saw it, and I was thinking they've just come off an 8-1, and now they've just conceded a goal in the first minute. And I was a little bit worried because, hard when the momentum starts to turn against you, you've lost your coach. A few things have gone kind of against you in the last few weeks. And, you're coming off the back of an 8-1. The last thing you want to do is concede, especially against a team like Sydney, who they've got that quality and they're sort of, hitting some decent form as well, to concede early. But in fairness, to be honest, it was a much better performance from Brisbane than the week before. They still lost the game, and don't get me wrong, I think the players will probably be disappointed considering how they started the season. But look, for me, Sydney, they do possess a lot of quality. I think, Gomez is scoring some goals now. I think Lolly, for me, is still the man in the league. Him and Arslan, for me, are the 2 best players in the league. And Lolly he's a gun.
Yeah, he's unstoppable. I think he came out, either it was at the end of last week or the start of this week, maybe after the game, saying that he really wants to stay in Sydney. So he's, I guess when you're coming off contract, what you want to be doing is producing on the field, and he's certainly doing that. I wouldn't want to be a fullback. To be honest, I wouldn't want to be a fullback in any games when a winger's running at me, because I fucking hate defending in those positions. But I definitely wouldn't want to be isolated with Lolly when what he's going to do. You actually almost know exactly what he's going to do, but he's so good at it that he can get past you. And then if you do show him a bit too much down the line, then he does go down the line, and it's like, it's a disaster.
No,
so he's on fire.
Yeah, he's for me, the hardest one-on-one to defend in the league. Yeah, by far. I think in recent years, Tilio's really hard because he's ambidextrous. He can go both ways. Lolly's, he's definitely left-footed, but he doesn't mind going down the line. He'll go down on his right. If you do give him the space, he'll take that. He's quick enough, and he's just so direct. He literally goes at you every single time. When we played against Sydney a few weeks ago, I was like, all right, I'm marking Lolly. And he ripped me in the cup, in the Australia Cup. So I was like, all right, got to be on here. And then we started the game, and Mac was on my side and Lolly was on Rizzo's side. So I was like, unlucky Rizzo, you deal with Lolly. Look, I'm not saying that Mac's not a good player. He's a very, very good player. But for me, he's been the one that's been the hardest to play against.
Yeah. I guess that's, as a fullback, I'm sure you'd always be thinking there's always one that's probably better than the other. Or it might not even mean they're a better player, but they're a better dribbler and what they do. And obviously it means for you specifically, it's going to be a harder game where Mac's probably more of that link-up player. He might score more goals potentially. Not this season. He hasn't probably hit the heights yet. But, he might score more goals, link the play up a bit better, where Lolly, he literally does. Every single time he gets the ball, he runs at you. And that's, especially in the A-League, I don't think Australian players, especially, we don't have too many players that actually just dribble you. There's not a lot of good 1v1 dribblers. So it's more pass, move. That's why Arzani, I guess, gets talked about so much, and Tilio the same, because, they are that, real technician on the ball, and they want to just go at you. But yeah, it was like you said, when I remember watching it, I was actually just going out for a walk with Carla and Orlando because we needed to get out of the house. And I watched the first minute and I was like, fucking hell, this is not good. Came back and saw it was 2-0, and then Nicola scored just before half time. But they did, like you said, Brisbane actually played all right. Second half, they probably should have got something from the game. It was just missed chances in not necessarily good clear cut chances, but that final ball they just lacked.
Yeah.
But I'm actually excited to see how Ben Khan does, because everybody's spoken quite a lot about him and he deserves a chance. And you heard his story as well. Obviously, he came over when he was young, 20, 21 years old. He might be a good one that we can try and get on the podcast, to be honest, to hear about his story. And this year he went down to Melbourne, or last year, sorry, should I say, went down to Melbourne, relatively successful in the Cup especially in the FA Cup or Australia Cup, and then got diagnosed with cancer and thyroid cancer, I think it was, and had to get that cut out. Plus his second child was on the way, and then he gets offered this dream job. So he, like he said in the interview, you couldn't say no to it. And anything that this year's taught me is that it's just football at the end of the day. And you know what? When you're in it, sometimes, like for you right now, you're losing games. Feels like your world's ending because you're consumed by football. You go to the club, you come home from it, all you think about is football. And I know we've spoken about it before, but when you put it into perspective, it is just a game. So he would be a great one, I reckon, to get on the podcast, just to hear about his story for young coaches that listen to our podcast. Didn't play at a professional level, coming here from the UK. He's worked his way up, finally got his chance, and that persistence, keeping on going, not giving up. So maybe we can put the feelers out to big Zach Anderson and see if he can get him on the podcast. But that's enough of Brisbane and Sydney. We've spoken about those two teams enough, and probably the game of the round, or definitely in my opinion, the game of the round, victory against Glory, 3-2 thriller. Firstly, do you think it was a second yellow to come out?
Oh, look, it's a hard one. I'd love to ask him, did you actually genuinely just trip over? Because it kind of looked like his foot went into the ground. I don't know. Look, I don't know. If he was expecting contact maybe, and then he just thought to go down because of natural instinct, and then thought, I'm on a yellow card. In fairness to him, look, he didn't go down and roll around and ask for a penalty. So I don't know. He could argue that he was, he just tripped over. I suppose you'll never know. It always looks a certain way on TV and people have their opinions. But look, the guy that knows it is probably Brucey, and I'm sure he would be the one to probably put his hand up and admit if he did take a dive. But I would hope from a player like Brucey, we grew up with him, we played with him in our junior days, that he wouldn't be maybe as naive to try that when you're on a yellow card. But who knows? What did you think?
Yeah, to be honest, there's one time in my career, I think I got hammered in the Central Coast game when I was at Adelaide last. I won 2 soft penalties, but they were actually penalties. They were soft, and it was similar to the one that you tried to get against O'Shea when you've gone down. There's contact. At the end of the day, if you've got contact, of course you're going to go down, and especially when you know the contact's coming, similar to the Bruce one where he thought it was coming. But I went down one against, it was 2 games later against Newcastle, and it's not an excuse, obviously, but when I had that fracture in my leg, I didn't want to get kicked on it. So when I saw, I think it was Topastani or someone coming, and I just thought I'll just jump out the way here thinking he's going to kick me, and he just didn't swing through, and it's oh, fuck. So it was kind of similar to the Bruce one, but I just got up straight away. I didn't appeal for it, didn't try and get the penalty. Obviously, they weren't too happy. It was kind of similar to Bruce's one where I think if you're going to give that a yellow card, you got to give 4 or 5 potentially a game then. Because, and I know it's in the box and it's a penalty, and if he won the penalty, would he have fucking said, listen, I didn't actually get touched? No, of course not. But players go down all the time when they're expecting contact, and to give the yellow card for that, I think it's a little bit harsh just because it's not consistent. But the referee got it right to not give a penalty, of course. Did he have to give a second yellow card when Bruce didn't? He didn't roll around. He didn't actually appeal for it. I don't know the letter of the law. Was he trying to deceive the referee? Or did he just think the contact was coming, and when you know contact's coming, you jump a little bit because then it actually softens the blow. But, it doesn't look good when it gets replayed 10, 20, 100 times.
Doesn't look good. But look, we know Brucey. Look, for me, Brucey's an honest kind of player. He's such a good guy. For me, he's not that kind of player. He's not that kind of guy. He's a very honest kind of player, very hardworking. I personally don't think he would have dived like that looking for a penalty. That's just my opinion. I know him. Maybe it's a little bit biased.
Yeah, but either way, he's got the fucking second ticket, and he's sent for an early shower. He might as well have just not come out from half time. So, and then straight after that, Tags almost could have got sent off. That was not the best challenge from him. But he's on fire. I'm glad he didn't get sent off because he's on fire. He was my tip for Golden Boot, I think, at the start of the year. And now that Bruno's gone away, he's got a good chance to make up some ground on him. But yeah, he scored an unbelievable goal in that game. One of those ones, almost it couldn't have fallen any better for him. And you've just fucking obviously hit it. Top finish. Perth were very unlucky, really. Goes to 2-1 to victory. To then get the equaliser, the young boy off the bench. A great finish for a centre back. If he's a centre back, like it's a very, very good finish. And then to cop a goal in stoppage time, Falami, it's actually a heartbreaker for your Perth Glory fans. You think you've done so well to kind of get a point out of that game, and just for like the general camaraderie of the group, it feels like a win in a game like that. And then to lose it. On the flip side, victory, I think they had a bit of an multiple losses in a row away to Perth. So they've kind of stopped that run, and they're the favourites. They have to be, don't they, after that kind of result away from home without Bruno. They've scored 3 goals without, their leading goal scorer. So, they're flying. They really are flying.
Yeah, it just seems like when you watch them, like they've got players popping up at the right times. It's like what you need kind of to win a championship. I think back to the year where we won it, and you've got certain games where you maybe don't play so well, and that's how it is across the season. You don't play well in every single game, but at the moment it seems like they've got those players that are stepping up in big moments, wanting to take the game on, and they've got goals coming from other areas. For me, the young boy Adams, when that goal was unbelievable. Like that's probably best goal you'll maybe score, and it's his first goal. So fair play to him, and then obviously Machach as well coming up big. So they've lost Fornaroli. It will be interesting to see how they go without him. But in that game, that they didn't have any issues scoring goals. So they do look like the strongest team at the moment for sure.
Yeah, and you've got like options. I think that's probably the biggest difference between a lot of the other A-League teams is they've got, they lose Bruno, but, I think they had, Economides was playing up front in that game, but they can mix it around. Like Machach can go up front. I'm sure you can play Brimmer in the midfield. Eli Adams, popping up like that. Then Economides can go on the wing. You could probably put someone else up top. Falami, you've got a lot of different options. Plus now you've got obviously the window that's opening. I think it opens tomorrow or on Thursday. So you've now got the potential to sign a striker if they want to go into the market and sign someone. Obviously, whether it's short term or for the rest of the year, they've got the potential to do that. So it's going to be really interesting to see what A-League teams do in the transfer window, which we will touch on a little bit about, what it's like, to transfer mid-season, what it's like in the A-League going from club to club, what it's like moving overseas. Because I think, for fans, that's some of the questions that were coming in. We've touched on your game, though. We've touched on the Adelaide MacArthur game, so we can kind of wrap the round 11 review up before we go into our, I guess, news of the week.
Yeah, we can kick it off maybe with the Socceroos going into camp this week. Obviously, a few teams without their players for the first time. We already spoke about Fornaroli, as is Bajic as well. But, it's an exciting time. Obviously, Asian Cup. Major tournaments for the Socceroos. This is, what people love about supporting our national teams, these major tournaments. And it wasn't that long ago where we won the Asian Cup. Now we're going into it. It's a little bit different. It's not on our home soil. But, what are your thoughts, I suppose, going into the Asian Cup? What are your thoughts on maybe the squad, the players, and how we'll fare at the Asian Cup?
Yeah, it's always interesting. I think the hard thing to know is like, not how serious the teams are going to take it, but, a lot of players, they're coming from the middle of their seasons, like you've got some of the Japanese players in the top leagues in Europe, the Koreans like Son, or Chen, they're coming across, and do they, I think they've got the hunger, but, you're also coming from a pretty congested period where, you might be a bit fatigued, a bit tired. You come into camp, it's a different kind of mentality. So, you just never know. And even like, then the Saudis on the other at the World Cup, they beat Argentina. So they've obviously got quality within their group. But for me, the 4 teams is probably Saudi, Australia, Japan, and South Korea. I think those are the top 4 teams that should stand out above the rest. But there's always a surprise packet as well. I think Australia have, goodies come out. I think it was, he was speaking about it, the mentality, and Arnie as well was spoken about, they're going there to win it. They want to win it. And I think Australians, we are very hungry, probably a bit of an underdog, but we don't feel like we are anyway. We feel like we can go there to compete and to win it. And, it's going to be really interesting to see the group stage games. India first up should be a very comfortable win. And you hope it's a very comfortable win. And then you've got Syria and then Uzbekistan, who, again, it's different football, isn't it? Like we played against teams like that in I know it's, your under 20s and 23s, but like you play group stage games, all it takes is one slip up and that could cost you. So those games are tough. Like, do you remember, was it Uzbekistan we drew to in the under 20s, which made us miss out on the under 20 World Cup?
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I've had a few like tough games against Uzbekistan in the junior days, and even Syria as well. To be honest, like, look, there's no easy games at these major tournaments. You can say, oh yeah, but it doesn't matter. We've got more quality. There's no easy games, and you slip up, like you said, one game, and it's so easy. You can dominate a game. You just have one of those games where you can't score, and then the other team goes down the other end and somehow scores a jammy goal, or it's a penalty through VAR or whatever it is. There's things that can happen in a football game. That's why we love it, because it's unpredictable. But you would hope that we top that group. I think they'll definitely have the aim to top that group. But it's just interesting. Look, you never know. I think for me, Japan and South Korea are the two hardest countries to play against, and they're the two top producing countries. Look, we've spoken about Japan so much with you and your experiences over there. Same with Juki. South Korea as well. They've got so many players, these countries, playing at a top level, top leagues in Europe. So it speaks for itself. And I think even through our junior years in the young tournaments and things like that, Japan and South Korea were always the two hardest teams, and the two teams with the most quality. They had the grit, but they also had the quality. And yeah, it's hard. It is hard playing in Asia. It's you can't underestimate any team. But yeah, look, I hope they have a really good run. I think if they make the semis and come up against a team like Korea or Japan and potentially do go out, I don't think you can really be too disappointed. But why not? Why not have your sights set on the final? It's not unrealistic for us as Australians to see us in the final and winning the whole thing. So I hope that they can.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just, at the end of the day, people, we're very, as you saw in the World Cup with the women's and the men's, like, people love getting around the Socceroos and the Matildas. So this is, behind the World Cup, this is the second biggest tournament. So this is probably more of a realistic one where you can win silverware, which we've done before. But also to put players on the map. You play for your national team, you win a tournament. Everybody's looking at Japan. Everybody's looking at South Korea because of the players in Europe. If we go here and win the tournament, all of a sudden, I'm sure the European scouts are like, okay, well, if the Australians won this, we're signing Japanese players. Maybe the Australian league's actually all right. So it gives you a lot of credibility, especially in a time when I feel as if it's changing in Asia and it's becoming probably a more in-demand market. So let's see how we go. I think if you're comparing player to player, they maybe do have a bit more class than us, those nations. But, it's all about, like what we spoke about earlier, like a Central Coast and a Wellington. Sometimes it's about the effort that you give, that camaraderie. And I think we showed at the World Cup that, we can match it with anyone. So, yeah, really, really excited just to watch it and to see some of the young players, see how they go. Obviously, we're players, but we're fans as well. So we're going to be cheering them on and looking forward to see how they go. But the next, I guess, positive news coming out of Western United is obviously the big deal with the US developer. What was it, $2 billion? So you're getting 10% of that, isn't it?
Yeah, I wish. No, nothing for me. But no, look, it's I think on the back of probably. There was a bit of uproar, and we didn't actually speak about it last week, but there was some commentary during our game against Newcastle saying that, the club was not in a good position, and the players were maybe feeling it because they hadn't been paid. And yeah, I didn't actually mention it last week, but that's completely false news. So I can just shut that one down right now because, yeah, we've been paid as we should. I think there would be a little bit more of an uproar from the players had we not been paid. But I think with all the regulations and the PFA and everything in this country, I think that's next to impossible to happen in this country for players to not get paid. So I can shut that down. But yeah, the deal with your land developments and Johnson Controls, obviously for the stadium, it's exciting. And obviously, look, I'm involved in it. I'm there at Western United. I see all the good that the club's trying to do, and people have their opinions. At the end of the day, they can, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But look, I think it's super exciting, and I don't know when that stadium will be done. It probably is a longer term thing, because it's not just a stadium; it's basically a city that they're building out there. And when it is done, it's it'll be done. The days of saying that West United don't have a stadium and don't have this, and why did they get a license? And I can't wait for that to happen, so people can just shut their mouths about it. But look, we're going to be in Tarneit very soon. It's going to be a smaller stadium to begin with, but look, for me, having your own stadium and not having to pay ridiculous fees to hire a 30, 40, 50,000 seater stadium every week and lose ridiculous amounts of money is the way forward for football in this country. And, we've said it before about small boutique stadiums. That's what we need, because it's not fathomable to be spending this amount of money and only getting, 2,000-3,000 fans to a massive stadium. It's just not right. It's not a way to run a business or an organization. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get in there. And obviously that news as well is very exciting for a player of West United.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think they said it was they reckon about 3 years, the 2026-27, but we've heard dates before. So let's see how they go with that. And hopefully, the quicker the better. But like you said, you've got your smaller temporary stadium for the meantime. And once that's up, I think it will be positive. And it is what it is. I get what people are saying. Every fan has the right to complain why Western United got the license. I think, as fans, they have that right. You want them to be critical. You want them to say things. But at the end of the day, they've got it. Like, they've got the license. And if they do, or when you do get that stadium, they're going to actually be above every other A-League team, because they're going to own their stadium. So it's actually going to be, be a pretty big coup for the club. So yeah, I get the uproar. I understand it, but you know what? We almost need to be positive. It should be the other way. We should be kind of hoping Western United get this, because then that changes, changes things. Then, you can potentially, you're not worrying about Suncorp Stadium's pitch being fucking shit. You're controlling your pitch. So if it's shit, you can complain to the club, because they're owning it, they're running it. But at the moment, we're tenants going into these other stadiums. So if they have a concert there and they destroy the pitch, well, it is what it is. You deal with it or go and play somewhere else. So, like you said, that's the way forward. That's the way it needs to be, to actually, control the product in the pitch. So it'll be great once it's done. I'm pretty excited actually to see it, obviously, in the years to come. But onto the Unite round. It's going to be really exciting to see. You've obviously got all the games in Sydney, men's, women's. So if you're a football fan, if you're in Sydney, if you're in Melbourne, Adelaide, whatever, and you're considering, if it was possible, I would be flying there this weekend to watch a few of the games. I don't think Carla would be too happy with me. Well, he went to the Adelaide United game, the Wellington one, and he slept the whole time. So he's obviously not a football fan.
Matt, he obviously didn't find it interesting. It was a good game, so I don't know why he's sleeping.
Exactly. Even when they scored and the crowd cheered, nothing from him, just sleeping.
Nothing.
So
yeah.
It's maybe a few years away. If the Unite round's still going on, then I'll bring him down. But like Friday night, we've got MacArthur against Western United. You guys are kicking it off 5:30, I think it is, in Sydney. You're at CommBank, followed by Melbourne City, Western Sydney. To be honest, why wouldn't any player in the area? And I know we say this all the time. I can't understand why they don't get more fans anyway. But you're a junior. You want to go and improve yourself. What better games to go to? You go and sit there for 4 or 5 hours. You get to watch the likes of De Villa play, Ben Garuccio if you're a left back and you're looking to work on your crossing maybe. Nah, to be fair,
How to
great
cross
attacking
into
left back.
Rosette.
a great attacking left back. Pena, Holman, top player. We were actually messaging about it last night. Looks like a great young player. Then followed by Melbourne City, probably some of the best foreigners in the league right now are at Melbourne City, and even Western Sydney. They've got good young players coming through. Like it's a great place to be. And then you got your Saturday game with the men's. You've got Central Coast against Victory, followed with Adelaide United against Sydney FC. So two unbelievable games. And then Sunday you've got Brisbane against the Jets and Perth Glory against Wellington Phoenix. So it's going to be really interesting to see, I guess, what those games pull in terms of crowds with the men's games. And then going on to the women's games, if you're a Melbourne Victory fan, you go there for, to see both games and you stick around for some other ones. But first up, you've got Victory against Perth Glory, followed by, Wellington against Central Coast. On Saturday, we have Canberra United against Adelaide United. Two teams that are really struggling, to be honest. Hopefully a few people from Canberra are making the trip up. And then Brisbane against Newcastle Jets, which will be an interesting game. And then on Sunday, you've got Western Sydney against Melbourne City and Western United against Sydney FC. So really, really good games in both the men's and the women's. This is going to be interesting because obviously they backflipped on the grand final decision. I think this is the most logical thing to do. Hopefully it's a success. And as a player, Ben, I think you'll be excited to be down there. And I think the one thing that they could do is maybe a Sunday night, all players stick around and they have a big party down at the Coogee Pavilion. That's what's missing.
Yeah, no, I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing for it, to be honest. Like, it's something new. It's something exciting. To be honest, I wish I could stick around and watch a few games as well, to be honest. But no, it's something really good. Look, I've seen some things online about the scheduling of the games and that games are on at the same time and people can't get around to all the games. I understand that. At the same time, I haven't seen the weather for the weekend in Sydney, but it's very hard. Look, when the AFL did it in Adelaide, you had games on different times. Look, it's older then. It's not the middle of summer. It's not January. I think you have to understand from a player's point of view that it's not right to be playing games at 3 p.m, at 12 p.m. We've never really seen it in this country, and I think that's why, because those times of day, it's too hot. So I would have loved to have seen it like that. I would have also loved to have seen it in another state. I think the gather round in the AFL was really strategic, having it in Adelaide, because Adelaide is a very livable, smaller city where you can get around and get to places really, really quickly, whereas Sydney is probably complete opposite. But I also understand the deal between the APL and New South Wales government. So, look, I'm looking forward to it. I would like to see it evolve in years to come, but it should be good. And like you said, at the end of the day, if you're a football fan, you've got that many games right there on your doorstep, especially if you're from Sydney. If you're traveling to watch your team, go support your men's team, go support your women's team, and go and be a neutral at another game as well. There's so many games on, there's good players to see, and hopefully this is something that we can, keep seeing going forward, keep evolving going forward, and use it to as a tool to grow the league.
Yeah, exactly right. I think for the moment, it's obviously in Sydney. Hopefully it goes really well, and then they can look to bring it around to different cities because it's a great concept. And if you have a bit more planning in place in future years with, people knowing it's going to be on at the start of the season, maybe they look to, save an away trip and book this because, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck. But all very exciting. And on a lesser note, touching on it, Sam Kerr, devastating news about her ACL leading up until the Olympics. More than likely it rules her out. It's 7 months away. I think, some European players actually do get back. I don't know what they do over there differently, but they do get back a little bit quicker, whether it's just a higher risk and they're more than willing to take that risk. But this is probably one for you to talk on to give the listeners a little bit of a insight into what it's like as a professional player when you get a serious injury. You did your ACL when you're at Hearts. So what does the process of that look like? Each club's going to be different, but for you being over in Scotland, when it happened. Talk us through, I guess, how did it happen for you? And then, how did you find out you actually had done it officially? And then your rehab, everything going forward, the mental challenges, tell us about everything, because, it's something it's tough. It's tough. Everybody talks about the ACL injuries, but a lot of fans have no idea really what it's actually like.
Yeah. Oh, it's the worst thing in football, injuries like this. And obviously for Sam Kerr, like the biggest player in the women's game, one of the biggest in the world. And obviously for Australia, it's a massive blow. But I've seen some things online about, I saw an article today about potentially taking her to take penalties, which honestly, man, I don't know who's writing these articles, but look, you're not taking her, you're letting her do her rehab. Why would you risk her to bring her on for a penalty shootout? Like, you probably could at 7 months, but at the end of the day, you don't back the other players to take a penalty. Like, it's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But I would highly, highly doubt that she'll be back in 7 months, because the ruling kind of is that your ACL is not actually 100% normal until, I think it was something like 24 months post the operation, where it's like a normal ACL. I'm pretty sure 12 months is when it's like, okay, it's very, very strong. If you get to that 12-month mark, then you should be fine. I came back in 9.5 from mine. And yeah, I just did mine, honestly, just like, it was in training. It was very innocuous. I was just trying to cut out a pass. There was someone in front of me, someone behind me, and I literally just sort of let them try to make the pass, and then I tried to cut it out. And as I've just sort of lunged, it was just gone. And I'd never ever had an injury like that before. And at the time, it was like really sore. I screamed, and then I got up and I actually walked off the pitch. So it's not like one of those injuries where it's a broken leg and you need to get stretched off. Some people, I've heard of people doing it much worse ways than me as well, like even easier, where they were juggling a ball and then went to plant their foot and did the ACL. The keeper, who's the keeper, the old keeper from Liverpool? He was actually at Hibs when I was in Scotland. I should know this, but I've had a mental blank.
Oh, Josie Dudek.
No, the second keeper. He had red hair.
Bogdan?
Yes, Bogdan. Yeah, he did it just going, I think, taking a goal kick. He did it taking a goal kick. So, like, I've heard so many stories of just weird ways where you can do it. And look, at the end of the day, the human body is just strange. Sometimes, you'll do a normal thing and your body just doesn't like it, or it's not prepared for it on that day. And all of a sudden, from one thing to the next, you're 10 months on the sidelines, and it's hard. I was at Hearts at the time. I went home. I thought, I've just maybe done something to my knee. I don't think it's anything too serious. Iced it, got my scan the next day, and then came back. It was ACL, and I was like in my apartment in Scotland. And I had a bit of a cry. I don't cry too much, but yeah, that was probably one of the moments where I was like why has this had to happen? Why right now? And I'm sure Sam Kerr is probably thinking the exact same thing. There's never good timing for an injury like that, but there's certain times where you really are hoping something like that doesn't happen, when you've got something like an Olympics or a World Cup year or something like that. And it's heartbreaking. It's the worst part of football, but she's at Chelsea. She'll have state-of-the-art rehab facilities there. She'll have the top physios. She will be looked after in the best possible way, and she'll get the right surgery that she needs. But I just think, to push something like that 7 months would be super risky. But look, I don't know if she recovers really well. Who knows? But to take her as a penalty shootout, I don't know about that.
Yeah, but even, I guess, to be honest, they took Kaya Simon for the same thing, and she didn't play a second, and you reduced the ability to have a striker that could come on off the bench. So I think they will have learned their lesson from that. But for me, I remember we had Geronimo. I think that was his name. Geronimo had like the rat's tail at
Geronimo
City.
Newman.
No, not Geronimo Newman. Is his name Geronimo?
I think so.
Anyway,
yeah.
I think it was
Uruguayan.
Geronimo. Yeah, Uruguayan. Yeah. He scored a couple of bombs, like some crazy goals.
Yeah, he looked
the
like
year I
he
came back,
belonged with the Hells Angels.
he didn't speak much English. I came back from, that was when I was on loan, and he was coming back from his ACL. And I remember being like, oh, like how long? Like, they're always very close, very close. He started playing and he was coming off contract that year. He came back full team training under 6 months from memory. Like it was 5 months and something. And obviously the risk is higher. The risk is so much higher at that point, but you can do it. It's just, yeah, your likelihood of, re-injuring, of redoing it is a lot higher. Would Sam Kerr want to do that? Would a club allow her to do that when they're paying the wages? And that's a different story, because you do it twice, then, that's maybe potentially career could be over type of thing. So it's very risky. It's disappointing, but again, it brings opportunities for other players. And it really, as harsh as it is, it's just part of the game. Like the best players in the world, they're lucky that sometimes they're built different and they don't get injuries. Like, you look at Lionel Messi, he's had a few injuries here and there. Cristiano Ronaldo, same. It's like their bodies are just able to withstand a lot of contact, a lot of training sessions, and just not get injured. And some other players who could have potentially been some of the best players in the world, they get a lot of injuries, or they get injuries at the wrong time. That can cost you. For you, you're over in Scotland, then if that doesn't happen, potentially, you kick on and you still stay over there. You get into the Socceroos, and you're a left back that's playing in the Socceroos right now, the Asian Cup. Like things like that, they change the course of your career, and it happens to everyone. Some players are just worse off than others, and it's just really like that. That's just part of the game, and if you can't handle, handle those down moments, those setbacks, then it's really hard to make it as a professional footballer, because they're going to happen at some point or another. It's just really how you deal with it. But it is really, really bad timing with Sam Kerr, and I just think now's the moment for your Mary Fowlers, your Hayley Rassos, your maybe an Alex Chidiac who's come back to the A-League recently. Maybe she hits good form for the remainder of the A-League season. Players that are on the fringes, or that are the other, they're key players, but Sam Kerr obviously takes a lot of the limelight. Now it's their moment to really step up. But that's really tough. And I guess from the mental side of it with the injury, for me, I only had one real bad one where I had a groin injury when I was up in Brisbane, and I had about 7-8 months off. And that was actually, without trying to plug the Inner Game journals, that was actually the time when I really got involved in kind of journaling and writing down a lot more things and thinking about, who I am as a person, not just as a player, because we associate ourselves as players from the age of 14, 15, 16, and our identity kind of gets wrapped up in that. So when you get injured, it can be a really tough time, because all of a sudden you're not a player anymore. Yeah, you're contracted wise you are, but you're not. You train separately. So you could imagine, all you fans listening out there, the 10,000, 100,000, however many listeners we've got these days, you're going into work, and all of a sudden, you're just going to work with different people. 70, 85% of the workload are going to do the normal work, and then you and the 20 other % just go to a separate area to do your work. You don't have the same schedule. You don't do the same things. So then after training, when it finishes, you're not able to really go and get coffee and hang out with them as much. You don't go to the match days to train with them, to play the games. You're up in the box. It can be a really, really isolating kind of time. And that's why, some players struggle a lot with it. I tried to, be as consistent as possible with my training, do as best as I could, and enjoy that outside life. And try and find the joy in other things. And, when I got days off, I would go down to the beach a lot more and try and just forget about football. Because if you get too involved in it, you can get quite depressed and quite down, just because you're not able to do the thing that you love. So for me, that was a really key thing, and celebrate the small wins along the way, because, whether it was an assault bike, a roller, it's shit doing it, but you turn it into a challenge. You're like, all right, I'm going to become a machine at this. Or whether you're doing upper body, it's like, I want to work on this, or I want to get really strong. And as soon as you start running, you lose all that weight anyway, and you don't look as good in the mirror anymore. But for that time being, you got to challenge yourself because that's what we love. So, what did you find when you did your knee? You came back to Melbourne, obviously, to do your rehab with Tim Schleicher. But what did you find it like?
Yeah, I think as footballers, like you touched on, we crave structure. And it's like what you said, with the job. Well, we get paid, to play football. I don't get paid to be sitting in the gym and doing these rehab exercises. That's not what I love. That's not what I was when I was a young kid. Oh, I want to be sitting in the gym doing fucking rehab exercise from an injury. No, you want to play football. That you want to be out there helping the team and contributing. But yeah, it's hard, and I think a lot of it comes down to your mental toughness. And I think as professional athletes, a lot of people do have that, whether it's something that they've trained or something that they've just had, and that's why they've become professionals compared to maybe someone else. But I would say my ACL was like a very, very hard injury. Don't get me wrong. I had that cry when I got the first news. I thought the world was kind of ending. But then after that, it was like, okay, now what's the plan? How am I going to get this right as soon as possible? How am I going to get the best surgeon to do my thing? How am I going to get the best physio to look after me? And that's when I did. I reached out to you actually, and you put me in touch with Tim. My club was good enough to let me come back to Australia. I came back, did my operation, started the rehab, and that was the first thing I said to myself. I said, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it now. My ACL's done. How am I going to get this right? And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be as strong as possible, get my muscle back to how it was before, get my mobility right. And I just wanted to get so fit. And to be honest, when I got back to Hearts, my skin fold, my body weight, it was all lower than before I got injured. And I was coming off the back of, a 9-month injury. It shouldn't be like that. But I was in better shape after my injury than when I was playing before that. And it is very, very hard. But I think, like you said, you celebrate the little wins along the way. And with an ACL, it is very much timeline based. At 2 weeks, I can do this. I can maybe start riding the bike. At 4 weeks, I can start running maybe on an Alter G, and then so on and so forth. You get your little milestones along the way. I think the hardest injuries are the ones that, your stress fractures, where you don't have that timeline. That's the ones that really, I think, affect people. You've got your osteitis pubis that I've seen so many people go through it, and I never wish it upon anyone, because they're the type of injuries where you don't get that timeline. So then you think, well, I'm doing all this work, but what for? It feels good one day, then it feels back to normal, back to shit. What's going on? And then you start questioning the physio, you start questioning your own body, the work that you're doing, the food that you're eating. And then I think that's when it gets into a really vicious cycle of just negativity. And the mental side is really, really hard. But I think if you've got that outlook of, you know what, I'm injured, it's not what I want, but I'm going to use this time to make myself stronger. I'm going to use this time to make myself fitter, better, learn things about my body that I didn't maybe take notice of before, like hydration and diet, and put those things into practice to make yourself become a better professional. And that's really the only things that you can do in those situations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes an injury early on in your career is a good thing. Obviously, you don't want anything too serious, or you don't want anything that's going to, shorten your career. But sometimes it can allow young players to actually become more professional, because they, when you're a kid, if you rock up to training, you just start shooting balls as hard as you can, knocking long balls. You don't warm up properly. The older you get, the more you start to realize, shit, like I got to do my activation exercises. I got to get in the gym. I got to stretch. I got to slowly warm up. But if you don't get a serious injury earlier on, you maybe don't take it seriously until you get to 27, 28. And by then it might be too late, and you've actually shortened your career. So, something that, for me at 20, what was that, 21, 22, when that happened, my injury with my groins, and you, similar age, you then actually do, you start to worry about what you're eating, you're sleeping. And that's why we're both wearing the Whoops, to track
Sponsor us, Whoops.
Sponsor us. We're athletes. But at the end of the day, it's our job, so doing everything you can. Of course, you still got to go out and enjoy yourself, and you can, have the odd McDonald's or whatever it is. But, everything you do is going to impact how you perform on the field. And sometimes it's those injuries and those players that get a lot of injuries that they start to look into everything. And they then, when they come back, they're the fittest, they're the hungriest, because they've actually had to work so hard to just be fit, something you take for granted. So hopefully that gives you an insight into what it's like for for a player going through an injury. Again, everybody's different, but it's a tough place. But also sometimes, like Ben said, you can actually work on other areas of your game, whether it's your strength. Sometimes just a break from the stress of actually performing every single day can also be a good thing. And Sam's obviously been under a lot of pressure with the Women's World Cup on home soil. Maybe this is the chance to actually, give her body and her mind a break. So when she comes back again, she's got another 4, 5, 6, 7 years, however long she plays for. But yeah, that's our topic of the week. And now going into our questions from you viewers.
Football Friends with Ben and Stef is proudly brought to you by the Inner Game Journals, started by none other than our co-host Stefan Moore. The Athlete Performance Journals were created to help athletes of all abilities become more self-aware through goal setting and reflection. On or off the field, the mental side of the game is so crucial to help you feel and perform at your best. Head over to www.theinnergamejournals.com and use code FOOTBALLFRIENDS to get 15% off all products. If you're a club, school or academy, you're in luck. Stefan also runs workshops and he's just released the app version, which will allow you to give direct feedback to players. Download the app for free today. Search The Inner Game on the App Store.
Questions of the week at jwatt114. Have you guys had any weird fan interactions? Ben?
Yeah, I saw this question and I was like trying to think. Look, I'm very in the moment when I'm playing, so there's probably been a lot of funny things that fans have said to me that I don't find funny at the time. But if I was another punter sitting next to him in the stadium, I probably would laugh. But no, none that I can actually recall. I've copped a lot of stick in my time, but no really weird fan interactions. What about you?
Yeah, I genuinely can't really can't think of anything, to be honest. Like, to be honest, some of the weirdest stuff is in Japan, is how much they love you as fans. Like they idolize you. Like in the street, obviously you're getting stopped all the time. They're sending like photos with you with them, and they've just got all they've obviously got jerseys with your name, but then they've got t-shirts with your photo on it, like your face, and they've got pillows and scarves, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, this is like, it's a bit creepy almost, but that's what they love. They love that stuff there. So it's that's probably as weird. That's not even weird. That's normal in Japan. So I think we've both been pretty lucky, or maybe it's just that people don't care enough about us, to be honest.
No,
that could be it as well.
Would you consider like throwing a 2-1 signer to a fan as a weird interaction during a game?
It was actually 2-0, to be honest.
Oh, 2-0. Oh, it looked like 3-2 the way you did it.
2-0. I'll keep my other fingers over there. I can't even do it right now.
That's 5-0 now.
I'm fatigued. I'm actually fatigued. Dad life. 2-0, which we will touch on in a couple of weeks. That was a bit of a weird interaction. Yeah, they were giving me stick. I love it. I actually love when the fans are giving me stick.
You look for that shit.
It makes me play better. Like, I actually have spoken to different people, like sports psychs, about that. Like, how can I like get that same fire that I get from like when I score a goal, or if someone smashes me, or if the crowd's giving it to me? Like, it's like almost this fire that gets lit underneath me. When I play with that, I just play unbelievable. So it's hard to replicate that. Like, what am I going to do? Be in the change room and get someone to start like punching me in the face or something to like get me pissed off? We have a fucking concussion. So
you should just hire. Just hire a fan. Hire a fan to sit at every game you play and just give it to you all game.
Oh, or even actually, to be honest, I saw my highlights the other day, and Ross Aloisi at halftime of Wellington away, he smashed me. We're going a bit off topic here, but he smashed me at halftime, and I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he smashed me. I thought I was playing well as well, and he smashed me. We're 0-0, and then I came out, and we'll put the highlights of this goal in there, because honestly, the best goal I think I've scored, like complete goal, like won the tackle in the defensive half, then linked up the play, got it in midfield, turned wide, forward run, cut back goal, and I was like, "That's it was a good finish." It was a good finish as well, like, and I was so angry when I walked out there at halftime. I was like, "Fuck this guy! Like, doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm playing well," but he probably did it on purpose. I guarantee you, he probably did it on purpose. He knew how to to get me up. So we'll make sure we clip that and put it in there so people remember that I'm still not a bad player. But anyway, next question. At Callum Aitken, if I've pronounced that correctly. Can you give some insight into how the A-League transfer system actually works and what it is like to move mid-season? You want to go on this one?
Well, I think you can go on this one because you've actually done a move mid-season. You went from City to Adelaide all those years ago and then collected the little trophy that's behind you, the little medal.
Yeah, that is true. I think that's the City jersey above is the one where I left halfway through, and then the Adelaide United one to the right. So I got all the boys to give it a signature and wish me all the best, and then I took the trophy off them. So appreciate that. But yeah, so I guess the way the A-League system essentially is set up right now, which I think it needs to change. There needs to be transfers from NPL clubs to A-League clubs so they can get a bit of a profit. They can make some money on the players, and even between A-League clubs. At the moment, you can loan players from one A-League club to the next, but you can't actually transfer them. So that's why we see a lot of mutual terminations, because if, for example, Ben Garuccio's at Western United, he's on a big pay packet and he's not playing at the moment, Western United think, well, we don't want this player. It's better to get him off our books so we've got more room in the salary cap to sign someone else. So they'll just come to a mutual termination with him, and then he'll go and sign for another club. So of course, the player wouldn't actually want a mutual termination without having something else lined up. And the club's not going to let a player go that they don't want to let go. They see them as being a valued member of the squad. I hope that changes in the future, because I think then you can see some of the smaller teams actually selling young players to your bigger clubs like you see around the world. And then they can go there, and that's how the lower clubs can actually make a bit of money as well. But the way mine came about, I don't know if we spoke about this on a previous one, but I was in Qatar with the under-23s, and I just got a phone call from Vince Grella, who said, how's it going? And we're just getting ready for the first game. And he's, have you ever had any interest?
He was your agent. He was your agent at the time.
Yeah, he was my agent. Good one for clearing that up. He was my agent. He just said, listen, would you be interested in going back to Adelaide? Have you ever thought about it? And I was just like, yeah, I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest. He says, okay, no worries. And just kind of hung up on me. And I was like, that was a bit weird. But anyway, got ready for the game, because I think we had a game in a few hours. And then after the game, the next day, he called me and said, listen, like I was asking that because I've got a player, Simon Malik, that he's also representing. He wants to leave Adelaide and wants to go to Melbourne City. Melbourne City really wanted to get him. Adelaide didn't want to lose him for free. So they asked, I think at the time it could have been, I could be wrong, but I think David Williams maybe got offered to Adelaide at the time. And I don't think he wanted to go, or I don't think Adelaide were looking for a striker. And Adelaide said, we want Stefan. And based on what Vinny said, Melbourne City said, no, we're not letting him go. But then Vince asked a question to me, because I was playing out of position then. We had Moy as the number 8, number 10, I think. Who was obviously always going to play over me, and then I was playing on the wing. So it's kind of one of those. Yeah, well, to be honest, I actually did back myself back then. Very, very, very naive. I thought
very strange, because he was in the Premier League a few years later.
Yeah, and I'll be in the Victorian Premier League soon, probably. So a bit of a contrast in careers, but no, it's something where, you believe in yourself as a player. So when I thought, I'm not going to re-sign at Melbourne City, because every year they were signing, marquee number 10s, marquee number 8. That was just a position that's hard to break through. So I thought, this is a good chance. I think it was Jimmy Jago was at Adelaide at the time. And I thought, I think I can go there and compete with him, potentially play over him. I didn't know this at the time, but they were actually negotiating to sell Jimmy Jago to Austria. So that's the reason why they wanted me. And then literally in the space of 4 days, the deal was done, because obviously, we had to agree the salary with Adelaide. Melbourne City it was just a player exchange, obviously. So it was a little bit, not just it was a termination, but they both knew what they were getting in return. I had to agree the deal with Adelaide. And once it was, it was pretty weird for me, because I left to Qatar as a Melbourne City player. I came back as an Adelaide United player. And then straight away, you get home from the tournament, and you pack your bags, you pack everything up, have a farewell dinner. It was actually a breakfast with you and the Melbourne
Yeah, I
family that
remember
we
that.
had there.
Yeah, that was a sad day.
It
Speak
was
about the tell people about the kind of the mental side that goes along with obviously transfers, because I think people probably the maybe a bit of a misconception would be that it's like a really exciting time, but for me, and a lot of people say this, that when you're negotiating contracts, it's the most stressful period, or even if it's only a few days, it's the most stressful time ever for a player. And is that the time when you were at the tournament and you weren't sleeping? You were speaking to Vinny in the middle of the night, or was that
no?
the
That
one
was
for your move
that was
to
a different
NEC?
one. That was from NEC back to
Right.
back to Melbourne City. That one, but that was
okay.
fuck. That was a crazy one as well. That was maybe we'll leave that one for another day, because that was crazy. But I think it was something where I guess in the moment you're excited, and I think the good thing with me was I had a contract still at Melbourne City, so I didn't have to leave. But still, you're stressed because you're negotiating this contract. You're going to Adelaide, but you're not sure what it's going to be like. So you're obviously, you don't want to get Melbourne City angry and then the deal doesn't go through, and then you've got to go back with your tail between your legs. And it was something that, I was excited to go to Adelaide, but also I was like, fuck, you got to learn in the middle of the season. You got to learn an entire new system of play, new coaches, new players. You know the names of the players and the coaches, and they all speak English. It's easier in Australia, but still, you rock up there. It's like the first day at school, and you're like, "Fuck, I'm the odd one out here. Everyone else has got their groups, their cliques, and I'm just this new player that's come to take someone's position." And they're probably looking across thinking, "Fucking hell, this guy's not coming to take my position." So it's it's quite stressful. And I actually remember driving out there the first time and being really, really nervous for training. The guys were all great, and obviously you settle in pretty well, and I did all right. But it can be
did better than all right.
stressful.
Went on to win it.
Yeah. Well, it couldn't have worked out any better. So it was something where you look back and you make the right decision. There's been other times which we can touch on when we've got more time, with your move to Hearts as well, and other failed moves and different moves when you move back to Melbourne City as well. We could probably do a whole segment on that. So it's stressful, but at the same time it is exciting, and you're always hoping that it's going to be a better move for you. That's the reason for you doing it. But hopefully that gives you an understanding of how it actually works. And we'll do one last one from B Muscat. Must be Big Kevin Muscat's brother. B
Brother
Muscat
Muscat.
95, or maybe it's his son. What would you
Baby
like to
Muscat.
see the league? The banter is getting worse and worse as this episode's going. So we're really sorry. But at B Muscat 95, what would you like to see the league do to bring in new fans?
For me, the marketing side could be a lot better. Look, and there's always going to be the stigma of, it's not Europe and it's not the same and blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm sick of it, because this league, the A-League, from years gone by, has created the players that now play for our national teams. I've played with them all. You've played with them all. You know them all. You've played against them. You've played in the A-League. You've played in junior national teams. There's a select few that maybe, went overseas at a young age, but 95% of this national team grew up playing here in Australia. They went through the A-League system. So it's not even an argument. The facts are there. It is a good breeding ground for young Australian players, and there's so many good ones in the league still now. So I think the marketing has to be there for the people that are interested in the league, because they're the ones for me that you need to target to make sure that they know when games are on. Because for me, it's impossible that a game can be on and an A-League fan that actually loves the league and would watch the game either on telly or would go to the game doesn't know that it's on. That can't happen. There has to be media everywhere. I want to see billboards of A-League games on, and that's a massive thing in growing the game. I think is targeting the people that actually are interested in football and love football in this country and will back it. Because once we start pulling in 10, 15,000 to every game, that's when you'll get the stragglers, the other ones that reckon that the league's not good and the quality's no good and it's not entertaining. They will start to come, because once you start getting atmospheres like Europe, everyone's going to love football. And football for me will be the number one sport, as it should be, over any other sport in this country, because it's the world game, and it's like that in nearly every other country in the world. And for some reason in our country, people just don't want to get behind football, and it just baffles me every day.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's quite strange. But I reckon the one thing that I've noticed a lot more, even just being back in Adelaide and seeing, I think it's been 3 games now that I've been to, it seems like there's a lot of really young kids at the games. So I think we gotta still target the actual fans, the ones that have been there from day one. You know, you don't want to alienate them, because they're the ones that have been there through the thick and thin, and they're the ones that are going to probably sell the game the most to their friends. And some of those kids, you know, that were 18, 19, 20 that probably loved the A-League when it first came out, they're now 36. They're maybe having kids now. So it's that next generation. And that's what I've seen a lot at the Adelaide United games. The 5 to 10-year-olds, like there's heaps of them around, and like with the Irukunda shirts on, and a lot of SA young boys coming through probably helps that. But I think really targeting those kids, because as a young kid, you don't know the difference between the level of Arsenal and the level of Adelaide United. You don't go for a team because the quality is better. As a young kid, you don't know anything. You go for them because you feel an attachment to them, because you can see them, you can actually speak to them, you can get an autograph from them. And I think that's something that they just need to do is keep the existing fans happy, do the right things for them, and then just the grassroots level, you know, we got the most participants, but really do a good job in actually marketing. And that's what Adelaide do so well in, is, you know, give a pathway for players to come through to play for the club. You know, so when you play for the club, like Johnny Yule, I've been training with Adelaide the last couple of weeks. You know, the change room, it's like Johnny Yule, Bovalina, Popovic, Gauchi, heaps of others, Nesta, obviously, Musa. These players literally grew up. Yeah, they literally grew up supporting, like me and you, supporting Adelaide United. They would have been in the stands watching Adelaide United, probably watching you back in the day, watching me, watching you know, other players, and now they're actually there playing for the club. So when they're going home and speaking to their friends are probably hammering Johnny Yule because they didn't win, not because of anything else besides they actually love the club. So I think that's a really, really important one.
Yeah, it's top. Adelaide are a perfect example of it. And, you know, I love that they've got so many local boys, because that wasn't the case for us when we came out of the AIS. You know, when we came out of the AIS, we always dreamed to go back to Adelaide United, and that opportunity wasn't there for us, which, you know, I hated at the time. I wanted to go play for Adelaide United. So it ended up happening for us eventually. But I love that they've done that now, and they've got such a strong focus on maintaining those young local talent. And they're doing it well. And look, they get the crowds at the end of the day. They get the crowds probably more consistently than nearly any team in the league. You know, I'd say maybe bar Victory and maybe, you know, Western Sydney in numbers, but you would hope that Western Sydney are pulling in bigger numbers than Adelaide United. So
yeah, exactly right. So that wraps it up. But finally, our Unite round giveaway. You know, we don't want to just be giving you guys all this wealth of knowledge and insights into what it's like being a professional player. We also do want to give you something else. And the APL were kind enough to, I guess, give us the double pass, which Zachary Probst is the winner. So he will be heading along to, I guess, whatever games he likes. He can try and get to every single one if it's possible, if he's got a helicopter or something and he can get from one ground to the next when they're on at the same time. But if not, he can pick and choose what days on Friday, Saturday and Sunday he wants to go to and see as many games as possible. We hope in the future that we can be doing more stuff like this, whether it's tickets giving away or jerseys, potentially something that we'll be discussing. But congratulations to Zachary Probst on that, and enjoy your tickets. Make sure you take some photos and videos and tag us in it. And Ben will tell you exactly where to find us and what to tag and wrap it up here.
Yeah, congrats, Zach. Make sure you come down to the Friday night game, Macarthur versus Western United, with a Western United top on, please, because we wouldn't have got that for us. So, congratulations. Enjoy Unite round. And guys, that's it for today. Make sure you're following our socials. I say it every week, but seriously, make sure you're following them because we hope to have more giveaways coming your way. So make sure you're following at Football Friends Pod on Insta and TikTok, at Ben and Stef Pod on X, and Football Friends with Ben and Stef on YouTube if you want to see Stef in his old retro Hertha Berlin top today. So get along there, watch wherever you guys like, follow us, and we'll see you next week as always.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, friend.
Fuck you lot, where's the beer?